From a mummy that may or may not have been a superhero to an entire family eaten by cannibals, here are 13 creepy and random discoveries, part 2. Number 13, Unknown Man E. Mummies are a real thing, you know. They're not totally figments of the imagination of movie producers. Yes, we're on mummy skin. It has been noticed that many unearthed mummies have gaping mouths. Legend has it that these people died screaming the words, Ra-ba-ba. That's Egyptian language for, please, I don't want to die. Just kidding, I'm messing with you. Here's what really happens. In wrapping mummies, there's usually not enough tension and tightness around the jaws. Therefore, as the body rots and organs decompose, the jaw gradually comes wide open. They're generally referred to as screaming mummies. A unique one of this lot is the Unknown Man E, discovered in 1881. His sarcophagus was unmarked, and this denotes that he was cursed to eternity, never to know the afterlife. With some history in the mix, they figured it's a high possibility that he might be Prince Pentware, the man that was charged with treason, conspiring his father's, the pharaoh's, murder. This conjecture was further confirmed when a CT scan showed he had undeniable connections with Egyptian blue blood. And here's some good advice. Never plot to murder your dad. Number 12, Mummified Moa Remains. The Jurassic Park series can be kind of scary, right? Like, we know dinosaurs are extinct, but imagining an island where they're still roaming free is a little freaky. In 1987, an archaeological team made a shocking discovery in a dark cave on Mount Owen in New Zealand. They found what looked like a chicken claw, except magnify it in your heads about 1,000 times. Yes, that's the size of the perfectly preserved claw they discovered. Reports say it's so huge, it looked like it had to be from a dinosaur. The animal which this claw ended up belonging to is called a moa. Moas have been extinct from the earth for about 700 to 800 years. By extrapolations and projections, archaeologists have posited that this claw must have been over 3,300 years old, and humans wouldn't stand a chance against them. They existed in 10 species, with some of them being as tall as 10 feet. Robert Wadlow has been the tallest man to ever walk the earth, and he was only 8 feet. Though this particular species, an upland moa, was 4.2 feet tall, and it would still scare the living daylights out of you. Number 11, Midas Hand. Have you heard the saying, they've got the Midas touch? What does that mean? Well, it refers to the ability that the person with this can make anything they touch turn to money or gold. The Midas Hand might have looked like the typical humans, or it could have looked like this small bronze hand archaeologists found at the Roman fort of Vindolanda near Hadrian's Wall in England. Nobody really knows anything about this artifact, but researchers believe it likely belonged to members of the Jupiter Dolichina's secret cult society, which almost every Roman soldier of the 3rd century belonged to. It's possible that they left the hand there as some form of sacrifice to Lord Jupiter. And why not? Did they have the Midas touch? Number 10, Cannibal Attack on an entire family. It's already tragic and horrible news when an entire family is murdered. However, there just aren't words to describe how freaky it is when a family is murdered and eaten. In 1994, a group of Neanderthal skeletons consisting of 3 children, 3 teenagers, and 6 adults were found by researchers in northwest Spain in a cave system called El Cedron. It's believed they died around 49,000 years ago. Clues of cannibalism were in the highly fragmented bones. Multiple different markings in the bones of all 12 individuals reveal that they had all been killed quickly and their skulls and bones were split open to extract brains, tongues, and even bone marrow. Additionally, no evidence of the humans being cooked was found, so it appears the family was eaten raw. This disgusting activity wasn't totally out of character for Neanderthals, though. For example, archaeologists have found other instances of Neanderthal cannibalism, although this is by far the largest. So apparently, thousands of years ago, it seems they didn't hesitate to use each other as a food source if they needed to. Number 9, the Black Sarcophagus. The discovery of a massive 2,000-year-old black-sealed granite sarcophagus in Alexandria, Egypt in July 2018 left researchers scratching their heads. Some believed opening it would unleash a world-ending curse. So naturally, defiant archaeologists broke open the sinister 9-foot coffin. Many were pretty disappointed that when opened, it only revealed 3 decomposed mummies floating in a soup of rancid sewage. Though it did spark a petition asking Egyptian authorities to let people drink the liquid from the dark sarcophagus in order to assume its powers. Sounds like a great idea? The team that found the giant black sarcophagus plans to continue studying the bones and to use DNA testing to figure out whether the people inside were possibly related to one another. They will also use CT scans to gain more knowledge about the bones themselves. Even if the scans are successful, it does leave one major question. Why were these particular bodies buried in such a huge black sarcophagus? Number 8, floating skeletons. Children at a mission school in Zanzibar were playing at the beach in July 1884 when they noticed black volcanic stones washing upon the shore. Intrigued and excited, they gathered the volcanic pumice. Among the mysterious stones, they discovered human bones picked entirely clean of flesh. Of course, their teacher reported it, and she found out that it wasn't even the first time that this had happened. Apparently, skeletons had been washing up all along the shore of southeastern Africa. These were the remains of people in Java and Sumatra, where the Krakatoa volcano had erupted 1 year earlier. It wiped out 36,000 people and abolished an entire island. For over a year, the bodies of these people floated across the ocean on rafts of volcanic pieces. Then the skeletons washed onto the shore of Africa, drifting up on the beach where school children were just searching for rocks in the sand. Imagine being on a field trip and this happening. Number 7, tree trunk coffins. Usually, people just bury their dead in coffins and lay them to rest in the ground, or they have their bodies cremated and scatter the ashes. But why go through all that stress when you can just directly bury them inside wood? Tree trunk coffins were all the rage thousands of years ago. An ancient corpse of a woman buried in a hollowed-out tree was discovered in Zurich, Switzerland. It's believed the woman was Celtic and that she died around 2,200 years ago. Like it wasn't strange enough that the woman was buried in a tree, she was adorned in the sleekest attire even in death. Researchers say that the woman must have commanded a great deal of respect to be buried in this fashion. Upon analysis, her cloth was found to consist of fur, wool, and leather scraps. A material that could last that long was surely not of cheap quality, now was it? She was also adorned with classy jewelry, a bronze belt, bronze bangles, and a beautiful amber necklace. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that she must have been stupendously wealthy. But who was she? Number 6, mini-human or alien or fairy? In 2003, a 6-inch tall skeleton with a cone-shaped head that pointed at the top was found naturally preserved in the Atacama Desert of Chile. The size of the skeleton was about the size of our beloved Disney character, Tinkerbell. Many people have claimed that the skeleton, which had the bone density characteristic of a 6-year-old despite its extremely tiny size, was actually an alien. 15 years later, researchers have the DNA evidence to prove the skeleton, nicknamed Ada, is of purely earthly origin. But even still, scientists are baffled and plenty of questions remain unanswered. Number 5, witch prison. Long before the Protestant Reformation, St. Mary's Chapel of the St. Nicholas Church in Aberdeen, Scotland, was a quiet and peaceful place for Catholic women to worship and pray. However, decades after the Reformation, it took a far more sinister role. Historians recently uncovered evidence that the chapel served as a prison for women suspected to be witches. Each of those found guilty of witchcraft were taken from the St. Mary's Chapel, strangled, and then burned. Excavations at the church have found the remains of more than 2,000 individuals buried at the site. Embedded into the north wall of the chapel, an iron ring used to chain the alleged witches is a memento of a gruesome past. Number 4. 100 dead babies. How can humans be so inhumane, though? Only a handful of scenes can be more sad than the one that has more than 100 infant skeletons. In 1988, archaeologists discovered a mass baby burial ground in the sewer beneath the Ashkelon Roman bathhouse. Upon forensic testing of the bones, all the babies were found to be only a few days old, and all of them were healthy when they died. Who the babies belonged to and why they were killed is still a mystery. Number 3. Vampires. Do you believe in vampires? Vampire myths were a huge deal in Bulgaria, especially during the Middle Ages. It was believed that people that did evil things during their lifetime would return from the dead, leave their graves at night, and feast on the blood of the living, unless a rod was hammered through their hearts. And so those digging the graves back then took extra precaution with burials when they thought the person could be a vampire. Archaeologists in Bulgaria have discovered skeletons over 200 years old, pierced through the chest with iron rods to keep them from becoming the blood-sucking pop culture icons we've come to obsess over. Archaeologists have also unearthed other burial grounds to show us how else people in the Middle Ages ensured their safety. Many skeletons were found with their lower limbs missing, because you can't haunt the living if you have no legs, can you? Number 2, the OG cheese. Queso, this next one might smell. What would a 3,000-year-old cheese taste like? In 2010, archaeologists discovered ancient cheese in Saqqara, Egypt. They weren't actually out there looking for cheese in the tombs. They were searching for mummies and artifacts as usual. Inside the tomb of Ptahmes, an ancient mayor of Memphis in the 13th century BC, they came across some broken jars, with one containing a canvas-like fabric with a solid white substance. They were puzzled as to what the heck it might be. Upon protein analysis, they found out it was cheese. The solid cheese contained a mixture of cow and sheep and goat milk. But I probably wouldn't want to be the one to taste it. It might be the last thing you eat. Cheesy, huh? Are you willing to be the brave taste tester? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 1, superhero? We've been watching Marvel and DC all our lives, and somehow missed out on this real-life superhero, the Knife Man. A group of archaeologists in Italy excavated a 1,400-year-old necropolis. They discovered a man whose right forearm was entirely missing and replaced with a long metal knife. He not only had an unconventional prosthesis, but he must have also survived an amputation when antibiotics were not yet in existence. From careful research and analysis, archaeologists assumed that the man didn't get the prosthesis until a few decades after the accident that took his forelimb. The knife was fastened to his arm with leather straps, and his abnormally worn incisors were proof that he must have used them for tightening the straps. Nobody knows how he lost his arm, though, but one thing's for sure, he did get adequate medical care. He must have been a soldier or something. Criminals don't get such treatment. And on an entirely unrelated note, Marvel is better than DC. Thanks for watching. Which one of these creepy and random discoveries was the most interesting to you? What's the creepiest or most random thing you ever discovered? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!